Lakeland PBS presents Curling Minnesota Bemidji, made possible by the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund, with money by the vote of the people, November 4th, 2008. Additional funding provided by George W. Nielsen Foundation, helping the Bemidji area help itself.
I just enjoy it all together. I enjoy the gameplay. I enjoy the patience it takes in the game. I just enjoy the game in general.
It's like a chess game, you know, things happen. A rock goes here, rocks go there. Then you have to think ahead. Well, if they do this, if they do that, then what are we going to do, or what are we going to try to do? I like that strategy.
Everyone has their part in making a good shot, the sweeping, the shot making, and the skipping, and everyone's yelling to sweep or not sweep, and everyone's all connected. And when you work as a team and you make a successful shot, one after each other, and then you win the game, that's the best feeling for me, the best thing about curling.
It's just being around other people. You feel like you're all one family. When you play against somebody from Hibbing or St. Paul or wherever they're from, you just accept them as part of the family.
A lot of people just look at it, you know, crazy people throwing a rock down the ice, and they don't understand the finesse it takes to throw that same repetitive rock over and over and over again. And it's a gigantic team sport, and it makes it a lot of fun.
I'm Donna Mae Naylor, and I was expected to curl when I married into the Naylor clan. My husband was overseas at the time during World War II, and I came up to meet his family in May of '43. And the first thing that Dad Naylor, my father-in-law, said to me, "Young lady, when you join the Naylor clan, you're expected to golf and to curl." And I did both. Back in 1935, a group of fellows came from Hibbing with curling rocks and everything on a trailer, and they're right down in front of where Paul and Babe are on the ice. They formed a sheet of ice and demonstrated the curling, and from then on it took off. So our club observed 35 was their first year. And then the next winter, I think it was, made of slab wood. That was built on what Senex's parking lot is now, and it was built with slab wood from Krebs lumber yard. And of course there was no heating or anything, but that was really rustic because you could see through it.
I'm Ruth Howe. I was hired at Bemidji State for team sports in 1957, and I was introduced to curling that year and wrote my dissertation on the growth of curling in the United States, the development of it. And from that, I did a lot of teaching about curling and enjoyed playing. I asked, "What do you do up here for fun?" And the gal who was working out in the office, her name was Shirley Froseth, said, "Well, some of us curl." And I knew how to bowl, but I didn't know how to curl, so I said, "Well, show me how to do this." So she took me down to the curling club, and she introduced me to Harry Hunt. And Harry Hunt taught me how to sweep, and he really knew how to sweep, and a little bit on how to throw the rock and so on. And that's how I got introduced to it. And it was at the second curling club. There were 4 sheets of ice, and it was just a fun place to be because everybody knew everybody else, and they brought in food, and they danced, and they had parties there, and it was natural ice, not artificial ice. That came in later, because I remember trying to throw a rock down the ice through water. And it didn't work too well.
On the ice, it was very cold. And the warming room wasn't much warmer because they just had an ordinary heater in the warming room area, and it sat near the door going out to the curling club. But we dressed for it. We didn't have special curling shoes and curling clothes like they have nowadays, but we wore heavy wool sweaters and stuff. And then back in the 60s, they built an addition on the southeast corner of the curling club. It was for entertainment, and that was where we gathered for our weekly gatherings. You know, they have bonspils and stuff just within the club. It was cheap entertainment, and of course in those days most of the fellows had been in the service, and so there wasn't a lot of money floating around. And we had young families, but we had more fun, I think, than most people realized. The women had a struggle to get permission from the fellows. There were quite a few of the younger curlers that didn't want women curling. They wanted to keep it exclusively for the men. But we had one president, Floyd Hurt, who was a trucker by trade, that encouraged us, and he really promoted us. That was back in '51. And so we formed our first club in '51, '52. And we've been curling ever since.
I think it was wonderful because it's one way to get to know people. And we had a lot of working women, plus those who were staying home, of course, but you got to know people within the community. And it was just a fun thing.
And I think that the women have played a very important role in the curling club as it is now. When we moved to the new club back in '67, '68, we furnished carpeting, we furnished furniture, and somebody located a bar in Marble, Minnesota, a cherry wood bar that we refurnished. The women did all the work on that. Well, in '67, the club was notified by the federal government that they were taking over that property and that they were going to build the Northland Apartments. And so it was a scurry job to find a location, but at that time, our skaters also had to find a new place. So they got together and built the building that we're in now. But the skating side has nothing to do with the curling side, and we have nothing to do with the skating side. But it just grew, and it was a struggle because it was open for the '67, '68 season. We had one general manager. He had been mayor at one time in Bemidji too, Jim Haskell, and he assumed the responsibility of overseeing the construction of it. A lot of volunteer hours by the curlers themselves. And we had a fellow that worked at Land O'Lakes Creamery at that time, and he ran the equipment and kept it in running order. But the ladies used to run bake sales, and we used to have rummage sale to earn money to invest in the new club. It was a good move. And we've had a very successful curling club. Just about everybody pitches in to help.
Well, I'm Jan Fenson, and I've been part of the Bemidji Curling Club since 1971.
I'm Bob Fenson, and I've been a member since 1960. Well, I got introduced, my father curled, and I started curling with him. And I had an aunt, the Aunt Norma, asked me to curl competitive.
And I got introduced to curling through my husband.
In '62, we went to the state high school. We did for 2 more years, and we won the state high school. Came back, I really liked it, and we got into men's curling and went from there.
The Bemidji Curling Club is like a big family, very supportive of each other on the ice and off the ice. We have a lot of people that are willing to do things for the club on committees and just doing things around the club that need to be done. Well, I think that the family unit has been a big part of curling. Our 2 sons and our daughters-in-law and our 4 grandchildren have all curled. And Bob and I curled together in mixed events, and we've curled with our kids and carry it on from generation to generation.
My name's Pete Fenson. I think I'm a 3rd generation member of the Bemidji Curling Club, and I was lucky enough to be introduced to the game when I was very young. My parents, Bob and Jan, would come up to play league night games, and sometimes didn't have a sitter and would bring my brother and I along. So we got a chance to see the game at a very young age and experience the club and the atmosphere that was here. I remember giving it a try, instructed by my mom and dad. Then when I was probably 13, there was a Sunday night junior league that we started to take part in and kind of started to learn how to curl there. Due to our interest, our parents played a lot. My dad was a competitive player, so he became our coach, naturally starting to teach us how to play the game.
We didn't ask our kids to play, they just wanted to play. And we played, they played, and that's how they all got started.
They saw our passion for the sport and they tried it and liked it, and they eventually both gave up hockey because they could see more future in curling and enjoyed it a little more. And it proved to be successful for both of them, and now it's carried on to their kids.
Hi, my name is Jaime Haskell, and I'm a member of the Bemidji Curling Club.
My name is Liz Johnson, and I'm a member of the Bemidji Curling Club. I met my husband, and we started curling in the leagues Monday night, and then I decided to try doing the ladies' league that same year. That was back in the 1970s.
I think I started curling in the late 80s and probably around when I was like 7 years old, and both my parents curled, my grandpa and my great-grandpa, and they got me into curling, and both my sister and I started just throwing rocks, and we've been falling in love with it ever since. It's been over 30 years now, and all thanks to my parents. So it was kind of a fun atmosphere for both my sister and I, spending time at the curling club, and we would just run around with other junior curlers and have fun, and then eventually we got to throw rocks on the ice, and we just enjoyed doing that, and then eventually learning more about the sport, strategy, etc., and we just got hooked. And it's very inviting because everyone is welcoming and friendly, and it's like a second home to us in a way, because you have a connection with other people there and another family in a way.
The family connection to the sport of curling is one of the things that we love about it so much. A lot of times it goes back generations, and we actually learn to be friends with the families that our parents were and our grandparents were as well, and we get to form quite a tight bond with lots of them.
You play against relatives, you play with them, and it's the same with other families too, and you know, they do the same. It's been really enjoyable.
It makes it special, you know, curling with family members. And now I still, I'm curling with my dad still in league once a week, and that he enjoys it, I enjoy it, and it's just makes it more meaningful when it's your family and it's someone that taught you how to curl, and now you're curling with them at the same level. When we won the Olympic trials, it was a little surreal at first. We toured a year after we won the Olympic trials, and I think it sunk in maybe in the middle of the tour that we were going to represent the U.S. at the Olympics in Torino, Italy, and it just meant a lot to get to that level because we worked so hard practicing, and we just loved the sport, and to get to that level, it was kind of a dream of ours, and to be there, it was amazing. And we'll always remember that experience, and I think we're good representatives for Bemidji and put Bemidji on the map too, so.
But they really impacted the sport, I'll tell you. The girls did. I heard so many comments from people that really were interested in the game because of the way the women approached it. They're making shots and still being able to be friendly about it. They were really amazed at that.
The list of places that I've been lucky enough to travel to curl is a long list throughout the world, both the United States, Canada, Europe, as of the last 5 or 6 years, Asia, Russia. Also, the game is expanding within our country because of the exposure that the game gets on TV now with the Olympics. I'm curling that in America and the Olympic Channel. There's more places that are starting to host large events that back when I was a little bit younger wouldn't have had a curling event. You know, typically we played in Switzerland if we left the country, or if we left the continent, or we played in Germany, or we played in Scotland. Now it could be anywhere.
It's really exciting to see them and watch them because they're going the same places we went to. And it'll never be any different, I guess. It's really exciting.
It was awesome to watch that both our daughters could do that. It was really awesome. You're gonna make me cry. But no, it was really awesome to watch them play and the whole experience. I mean, everybody cheered for their teams, but you cheered for good shots. That's the curling way it is. That you compliment people on good shots, and so the atmosphere was just wonderful. It was really nice.
I remember the first time that he won a national championship, there was a big celebration and a big dinner to raise money for their team. And that's happened with other teams as well. Junior teams, men's teams, women's teams that have gone on to compete at a higher level. But it's always an honor to represent our club and our state, our town, in anything, but we've really enjoyed it through curling.
Being able to play the game on a national and international level and represent our community and our club has always been an honor and privilege. When we started when we were young, we always had a patch, or we would have the logo of our curling club embroidered on our uniforms. So it's always been a great thing to be able to do. And then something else made me very proud is when we would have championships or tournaments here and people come from out of town that we played, on the tour maybe. They get to play us in our own home club.
My name is Jaime Quello. I started curling about 2002, brought my daughter to curl in youth curling, and with that, coming into youth curling, I got involved with the junior curling program, and I've been doing that for about 17 years. I moved to town in about 2001. My father-in-law curled on a league, and I had no concept of curling, so I took a community ed course, learned how to curl, got on a team, and then just started curling from there, and now I curl 3 times a week and help with juniors a couple. My daughter was 5 years old, 6 years old, so I signed her up in junior curling, helped coach, and from there just kind of went on, and now my daughter's 22 years old, and I have a 18-year-old son that curls, and I have a 13-year-old daughter that curls, so it's kind of a family event for us. Youth curling, or just youth sports in general, just by being a warm body and just by showing up and just by having a kid, most times you're expected to coach. I came out there and I coached with all the other coaches, and I learned how to coach the kids, how to do the sport, and just kept learning as I go. And so to get up here, to be a part of the curling club, and it was flourishing, and just people and the experiences and learning so many people. It's so fun with the amount of people you get to meet at this club.
In about 1985, we purchased junior rocks, smaller rocks for the kids to throw at a younger age, because usually about 10 or so they can throw rocks. But we had kids, Jamie and Cassie's age, about 5, 6, or 7, that could actually try the smaller rocks. And then a couple years later, they started a Sunday night program. We had a ton of kids that first night that we started that. There were so many families that wanted their little kids to try that. And then a couple years later, we started the middle school, high school program, which was after school on Mondays, just so that those kids could have a time where they could play. It was fun to see these kids, and I did that for about 10 years, and I passed it on, and it's still going on.
We start our juniors in first grade. Anyone can sign up, and so we usually have first through 5th grade in our junior leagues. And we'll typically have about 70 kids on 6 sheets, and that caps us out right there. And that's just total mayhem with lots of little kids, and it's repetitive, till we can get them up to that next level. And then we have 6th grade to high school kind of get together, and we get about 45, 50 kids that come out for that, and we can spend a little more time getting them better techniques. Bemidji's unique that we also have high school classes. So we have 2 classes of 48 kids during the day, and then we swap them over twice in a year. So we have 180, 190 kids through the high school that get to experience curling also. And then also the college has curling classes here. So
I introduced curling to BSU. I approached them because we could rent the club for almost nothing. And a lot of times we were always looking for members, and they did classes for little kids on Sunday nights. So why not provide students with it A lot who wanted just to learn about this stupid sport, and that's how we got them. And then once they were introduced to the stupid sport, they loved it. So that's what happens. Then I had a lot of curlers who were really good curlers take the class. Scotty Baird and all of the Fensons, they were national curlers. And Johnson was too. I didn't have the Johnson girls, but I had the Appas when they were there, the girls.
We realized we could potentially be in the Olympics when we saw Stacy and Carrie Leopis at the time. They went to the Olympics in 2002. And we're like, oh, there's two sisters. They went to the Olympics. We're two sisters. We could go to the Olympics. And just to have that connection, you know, they're from Bemidji, and to see that, and, you know, they came from the same place, Bemidji Curling Club, we could do that too. And it just motivated us, seeing your fellow curling members from Bemidji Curling Club do this, and it pushed us to practice and, you know, get to certain levels.
They start in the junior program, like a lot of the kids. And then some of the kids, they played bonspiels and played with their parents. And then the next step that really, I think, helped them was when Stacy had 1 year left that she was eligible to play juniors, and asked the two of them to play with a friend at junior state. And they won the junior state, and then they went to nationals. And they did really well.
We went to the semifinals, our first junior
First year
nationals.
they ever played. Yeah. And that kind of started it.
7th, 8th, 9th graders, they'll come play in leagues, and they're playing with adults. Well, these kids first start out, and they're having difficulty. So the adults in the leagues are also teaching these youths how to get to be better players. So it's kind of a responsibility to bring the sport up through the youth.
And I think the atmosphere in Bemidji is that we have a lot of good curlers to play against and learn with. And I'm talking about the guys and the women and the other juniors. They're all such good curlers that they feed off each other and learn so much from each other, willing to teach and share.
Yeah, that's a question that's been asked many times. How come we've had so much success at a high level? And it's a tough question to answer. I mean, I kind of blame the people that taught me how to play. I mean, they taught us how to play the game, taught us how to play at a high level. They taught us how to respect the game and the people that we play, and they taught us how to work hard. And it's something that I think that's just been passed down.
It's quite the cool environment to walk into the club and see the amount of banners we have. And I've got to travel to a lot of clubs in Minnesota. Other clubs try to do the same thing, and they don't have a fraction of what we have as a club. So, you know, it is definitely a commitment for us as a club and with our youth to how do we keep filling banners? How do we keep making this club as great as it is? Because we do have such a rich tradition of great curlers.
I know that gal at the chamber once said that Bemidji could never pay for all the advertising and marketing that happened because of the kids and Fensons going to the Olympics. It drew so many people to see what Bemidji is, what the club is like, and where these kids came from.
I know a lot of people, they think of Bemidji and they think about curling, and they know that it's the curling capital of the U.S. And so a lot of times they'll want to come and curl or try to get some ice time or want to see curling. And I think it does help the economy too, because people will want to come and watch and then spend money in town too.
Hotels, food, any recreational activities that they might partake in besides the curling. And it's economically good for our club. We serve food here and sell souvenirs and so on. And so it's a boost. It's an economical boost.
Bemidji's known for curling. You know, you go out of town, you go somewhere, and you curl, people say, oof, they're from Bemidji. That's the first thing they say. They're from Bemidji. They know how to curl. Yeah, some do, some don't. But it's because the good ones have made it, you know, known out there that, hey, they know how to curl in Bemidji. It brings people into the community. It's something to do in the community. At least for our family, winters go by extremely fast because we're constantly at the curling club or we're traveling somewhere to curl. It's a social event. Like I said, I've got to meet 200 plus people because of curling. People I didn't know. Moved into a community, didn't know a lot of people, got to be in the curling club. Now I know over half the town just because of curling.
But it's neat. I looked back at some of the pictures from those years ago, and you see all these kids have grown up and now they're curling at the club. And it's fun to see that tradition going on, and they've got kids that want to try it and are starting to curl now too, so that's great.
Well, I have to admit it's the broom stacking. And you know, broom stacking is after you curl a game, you go up and eat and have a drink and socialize. And you know, I can go to any event now where there's a curler and you still have that commonality of friendship and happy to see each other, and just there's something about it, yeah.
Well, I guess I would really invite people to come out here and learn what curling's about. I think a lot of people have misconceptions or don't understand what it takes to be a curler, don't understand maybe the closeness of the curlers, don't understand what the game's about. And I think if they would try it, they could find out that it's very enjoyable and get hooked.
I agree.
Another thing I enjoy about curling that other people would enjoy too is just the connection with Bemidji Curling Club, connecting with members and friends, and throwing rocks and sweeping and then socializing afterwards, and it's just a lot of fun.
I was always so enthusiastic about that curling club. I fell in love with the game right away. At first I looked at it and I thought, it's kind of a stupid thing out there sweeping that rock. And of course the older fellows couldn't sweep like the young ones do, but we had a good time.
We have such a great club, and I'll brag about our club all day long. We have a great two-level tier seating. I mean, as you're looking past me, it's great viewing. It's some of the best viewing that I've been to in a club. You got a bar atmosphere upstairs, you got a competitive, everybody's downstairs, coaching aspect, and then you're watching great curling on the ice.
Well, what makes the Bemidji Curling Club unique to me is this is home. This is where I grew up. This is where I learned how to play. I have lots of memories from the time I was, like I said, preteen to current day. And the friends that I made when I was young, that have come and gone, the friends that are still here, are definitely what have and still do draw us to the Bemidji Curling Club.
Curling Minnesota Bemidji, made possible by the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund, with money by the Vote of the People, November 4th, 2008. And additional funding by the George W. Nielsen Foundation, helping the Bemidji area help itself.